Hi, folks. I'm Peter Lemieux with Rounding Third of Batter Sports. I tell baseball stories. Like usual, I think I got a great one for you today. It's entitled Get to Know Smokey Joe. Who's Smokey Joe? How come you don't know about him? That's the story. My story starts April 14th, 1910. Whoa, Peter, that's a long time ago. You betcha. It's baseball history. For the first time in the history of baseball, the President of the United States was going to throw out the first pitch of the baseball season, recognizing baseball as America's sport. Now, it was easy to do back then because the Washington Senators were in the American League. All they needed to do was schedule the first game in Washington, and the president could just very quickly and easily get to the game. Our president at the time was William Howard Taft. President Taft was a very large man. That's a euphemism for he was morbidly obese. Couldn't fit in the baseball seat. So before the game, they had to take two seats out and replace it with one very large seat just so he could go to the game. Well, get to the game, and President Taft threw out the first pitch to a guy named Walter Johnson, the star player of the Washington Senators. Just a word about the first pitch. That tradition of President of the United States continued even after the Senators left Washington to go to Minnesota. That tradition continued all the way up to President Trump 45, his first presidential term. Every president between Taft and Trump did it. We then traded baseball for MMA, football, and bicycle rides in Delaware. But no politics today, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to talk about this great American tradition where the President of the United States started baseball. On that day, Walter Johnson walked out and in front of the President of the United States threw a one-hit shutout. Walter Johnson was so good, they called him the Big Train. He was on the terrible Washington Senators, but he played long enough with them. He started in 1907, that in 1924 and 25, they made it to the World Series, winning one of them. During that time, Walter Big Train Johnson won 417 games, second only to Cy Young. In 1934, when they started the Hall of Fame in the middle of the Depression, 5 players got in: Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Honus Wagner, Christy Mathewson, and Big Train Walter Johnson. He is a pillar of the history of great baseball players. He won 20 games, 12 consecutive times with the lowly Washington Senators. When he retired, he had an ERA of 2.17. In the 2 World Series he played in, his ERAs were 2.25 and 2.08. This guy is one of the greatest pitchers in the history of baseball. Peter, what's this got to do with this Smokey Joe guy? When Walter Johnson was a rookie in 1907, there was another rookie, Smokey Joe Williams. Walter Johnson was 6'1", a giant for his time. Smokey Joe was 6'2". They were both right-handed with dominating fastballs. Everything that Walter Johnson was doing in the major leagues, Smokey Joe was doing in the extreme in the only league he could play in. Now, in the beginning, the first 4 years, we don't have a lot of great records because black players played basically traveling shows. They would play factory workers. They would play whoever could field a team they would play against. So the competition wasn't always the best. But in time, the Negro League started to form, and Smokey Joe did have to compete against some really, really good players. A couple of things. Well, let me get to the quotes in a second. Some of the things that Smokey Joe Williams did, and again, we take these with a little bit of a grain of salt. Rookie year, 28-4. Then he won 15, 20, 20, 32 games. And then as the competition got better, so did he. In 1913, they promoted what they called a championship series between his teams and the Chicago American Giants. They played 14 games. Smokey Joe won 8. Pardon me. He pitched in 8 games and won 5 of his 8 games. So he was recognized pretty much as the best pitcher in the Negro Leagues. He went, as many of these people did, team to team. He pitched all the way till he was 43. One game against the Kansas City Monarchs, in 12 innings, Smokey Joe struck out 27 batters. Whoa, Peter, that's impossible. Well, he did it. It went into the nighttime in a stadium that didn't have lights. But he won the game, and that's the way that worked. There was another pitcher that everybody said he and Smokey Joe were the best pitchers ever, and that, of course, is the famous Satchel Paige. They actually pitched against each other only one time. Smokey Joe won the game 1-0. He played regular major leaguers. In the off seasons, they would get together and barnstorm. When he pitched against the regular major leaguers, Smokey Joe had a record of 20-7. He beat Grover Cleveland Alexander, Big Train Walter Johnson, Chief Bender, Rube Marquard, and Ray Hoyt. 3 times he faced the National League champions, and he won 2 out of 3. Get this. The only game he lost was 1-0 when he pitched a no-hitter. This guy was dominant, absolutely dominant, and unknown by the white world. In 1934, when Hall of Fame during the Depression started, the initial class put in 5 pillars of baseball history. Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Honus Wagner, Christy Mathewson, and Big Train Walter Johnson. They were the 5 first Hall of Famers. Smokey Joe never got to play in the major leagues. He did get put in the Hall of Fame in 1999. Players who faced him just said what everybody knew. Smokey Joe was fantastic. Ty Cobb said the ball exploded out of his arms. He said that in the major leagues, Smokey Joe would have been a sure 30-game winner. This is from Ty Cobb, not a great civil rights leader, okay? 30-game winner, he said. 1999, Bill James, our statistical nerd of baseball, did a study, and he ranked Smokey Joe Williams as the 52nd greatest player in the history of baseball, which put him 12th among pitchers. He was behind Sandy Koufax, ahead of Bob Feller. As for Smokey Joe, same height, throwing fastballs, dominating whenever he played, pitched till he was 43. He beat major leaguers. He beat Satchel Paige. He beat Walter Johnson in a 1-0 game. But he got old, retired, and died relatively unknown for no fault of his own. Was not a bitter man from what we can tell. In 1947, when Jackie Robinson took the field, breaking the color barrier, this is what Smokey Joe Williams said. The important thing is that I lived long enough in this fight against the ban to see it lifted. I praise the Lord I lived to see this day. You know, heroes come all different ways. Too often we make heroes from fame. This guy was never famous. Never famous until we discovered the facts. But I want to make him famous. So that's why I tell baseball stories. Folks, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, talk to me, tell me some comments, tell your friends about us, spread the word. Let's let everyone in America know about this great pitcher, the equivalent of the great Walter Johnson, Smokey Joe Williams. Been my pleasure to talk about that. I'm going to do more stories coming up. Please like, subscribe, tell your friends about this. Let's build the community and make your comments, and I look forward to seeing you the next time with my baseball stories. You all have a great day. Focus on baseball and you'll be a happier person. See you later.